Aladdin for the Super Nintendo is one of two different games based on the same movie. The other one being Aladdin for the Sega Genesis, which although is also a Disney platformer, is a completely and totally different game otherwise, though with a few comparisons between them. In both, the player must guide Aladdin through several different levels based on scenes from the movie, with a few extra ones peppered throughout that are completely and totally original. Such as the genie's lamp, or the pyramid in which Aladdin must go into to rescue Abu. Like many other Disney titles such as Mickey Mania or Pinocchio, Aladdin is good. Really good. Surprisingly good for a movie licensed game at least, which really isn't supposed to be good. The story is partly told through a series of cutscenes separate from the game, but others, in a style similar to Prince of Persia, are told right in the middle of the action. Aladdin has often been compared to the before-mentioned Persia, which is pretty valid. It's a platformer stage in the ancient Middle East in which the player must constantly navigate through dungeons and upon rooftops. And the graphical displays are pretty similar as well, so fans of the Persia franchise should find themselves right at home. Now, one thing that was continuously noticeable throughout the playthrough is that this game gets really frickin' hard, really frickin' quickly. Seriously, the second level is more difficult than most platformers are at the quarter-way point. And we get used to seeing this, and this, and this, and holy, over and over again. Additionally, every once in a while when you do see the terror of the game over screen, you'll have the chance to continue up to around 2 times, or whenever the credits you can collect in the bonus stages run out. Once this happens, the game really will be brought to an end, and you have to start over at the title screen. That said, you can enter the passwords given at the end of each stage as many times as you want, so the difficulty really balances itself out, which pound for pound makes it a lot easier than, say, The Lion King or a few of the other Disney games. Other than that though, it still ends up being one of the harder ones of the bunch, making this Genesis friend look like a child's tutorial. Graphically, in terms of musical quality, Aladdin for the Super Nintendo isn't anything to write home about. This really stands out when you compare it to the Genesis version, which was pretty exceptional for a game at that time. The music though, based on the high quality performances seen in the movies, comes off as sounding rather MIDI quality and retro. This game is definitely showing its age in the graphics and sound department. In orchestral aficionados might TV really low. The level concepts, on the other hand, are clever, and even after playing through it a few times, you may find yourself intrigued by little details, like the facial gesturations of the genie head platforms as you go pointing into the clouds. The controls are pretty standard, but simple enough to master within a few minutes. In addition, the typical jump around enemies' heads to dispel them routine, which of course is always good for a barrel of laughs. Aladdin can also throw apples, or if he picks up a cloth somewhere in the stage, glide around after attempting a jump, which can be pretty useful while floating comfortably over a bottomless pit of death. Aladdin, in addition to the standard controls that are common to any good platformer, must also accomplish additional tasks such as speeding by on the flying carpet while trying to avoid obstacles. You know, the kind of level you see as Mickey Mania or The Lion King. At the end of every other level, Aladdin will end up fighting a very simple repetitive boss, such as a fat man who keeps leaving himself open with the same sword strike, or a semi-cosmic serpentine Jafar. Much harder, by the way. If an extra scarab was found throughout the stage, then the player will have the chance to gain back a few of those lives with a spin the wheel style game of chance, which will randomly land on different bonuses such as extra lives or a full health bar, or sometimes not at all. Then you're kind of screwed, which given the game's continue system really doesn't mean anything. Sans the annoyance going back to the first part of the level each time. In conclusion, well, rule of thumb says 2 hours of you suck, 1 if you're actually pretty good, so it's worth a short playthrough at least. And while I may have hammered down a few of the game's flaws throughout the review, Aladdin really is a brilliant, solid platforming experience that just so happens to be licensed after a Disney movie tie-in. Is it as good as its Genesis counterpart? Probably not, but Aladdin on the Super Nintendo is a nice game to spend the afternoon on. Almigames gives Aladdin for the Super Nintendo a 7 out of 10.